Hey guys, welcome back. Today we are talking all about how to read a food label. Some of you guys might be thinking, why is this even important? But for those of you who are trying to watch the amount of fat that you intake, particularly saturated fat, or cholesterol, sodium, or something like carb counting, if you might have to watch your blood sugar, this is a really important skill. And it's super easy, but it can be kind of overwhelming if no one's ever explained it to you before. So that's what we're going to be doing in this video today, so stay tuned to figure out how to do that. We're going to be figuring out how to read a food label using two different food products. The first one is going to be a single pack of Skinny Pop popcorn. The other thing is going to be a can of tuna that we will just go over at the end for simplicity's sake once you've already learned how to read the food label. So let's dive in. There's only going to be a few things that are even important when looking at this nutrient facts label on the back. So it's going to look just like this here on the back, and there's a few things that you want to pay attention to. The first thing is going to be serving size. So oftentimes in a bag like this, or in like a big box of crackers or something, at the top you're going to see serving size. For this, it's only one package. Sometimes it will say like half a cup or something like that. And then underneath that, it says servings per container. And there might be 4 servings in this one bag. But we all know that we're going to eat this in one sitting. But they do that to make their nutrient facts label look more intriguing, to look better. So something like a little pint of ice cream is usually going to have 4 servings in it, even if you might eat that whole pint in one sitting, because they want it to look like it's kind of a little bit more healthy than it actually is. But for example, if this did have 4 servings per bag, we would multiply all of this by 4 in order to see how much is in this entire container that we're going to consume. I tend to suggest that people ignore the amount of calories in this, because calories are really just made up of the other ingredients listed on here that we care a little bit more about if they're disproportional. So we're going to be looking at saturated fat, sodium, dietary fiber, and sugars. We'll also kind of look at protein on things, but popcorn is not going to be a huge source of protein, so we don't really care about that on this. So for this one bag, it has 0.5 grams of saturated fat. So that is a pretty low amount, and it's most likely coming from the sunflower oil that is in this ingredient that they kind of use to coat the popcorn. And so then you also want to look at the ingredient label and see where the saturated fat is coming from. A lot of things like nuts and stuff will naturally have saturated fat in them, and obviously things like animal products in general will, but something like this, it's being added in, and so you want to watch out for that. For saturated fat intake, you're looking for less than like 5 to 6% of your overall calorie intake for the day coming from saturated fat. But the lower that number, the better, because it's going to prevent you from having any cholesterol or blood lipid issues. So something around 10, maybe 15 grams of saturated fat might be what's right for you, but you would have to do that math on your own and figure out what 5 to 6% of your calorie intake from saturated fat would be. The next big thing we're going to be looking at here is sodium intake, especially with packaged food products. So the things that are going to have this label, we want to watch out for sodium intake. There's a lot of varying recommendations around sodium intake. It used to be less than 2,300 milligrams a day, but now they're lowering that even somewhere around 1,500 milligrams a day in order to see benefits. But kind of the lower the better if you have heart issues, if you have high blood pressure, and so that's going to be something that you want to watch. If a packaged food product has like over 500, 700, 800 milligrams of sodium in it, that's a lot coming from one food item or maybe one meal, so you want to be aware of that. In this particular instance, there's only 45 milligrams of sodium in this entire bag, so they're lightly salting this popcorn, but that would be kind of a good amount and a regular amount that you might want to look for in something like this. And then we want to make sure that we're getting enough fiber intake in our day. Packaged food products might have a lot of fiber in them, but we're also going to be getting them from fruits and vegetables and fresh foods without an ingredient label on them. The recommended amount of fiber a day for women is around 25 grams, and for men it's actually much higher, around 38 grams. So there is around 2 grams of fiber in this particular bag of popcorn, and popcorn is considered whole grain, so we are getting some fiber from there, but we want to make sure that we're getting it elsewhere in our diet too. And the last but not least thing that we're going to be looking for on an ingredient label is the sugars. They are now going to start requiring that they break this out into natural sugars and added sugar. The recommendation for added sugar, as you can see in my sugar video, is less than 25 grams a day. So if one particular packaged food product, maybe ice cream or something else like that that you're having, has a lot of sugar in it, kind of bordering that or maybe even more than that, then you really want to watch your sugar intake the rest of the day, or consider maybe changing that food to something with less sugar in it. One big example of this could be something like soda. If you're looking on the back of your soda nutrient label, it will have one of these nutrient labels. You'll see just how many grams of sugar are in that, and knowing that you want to keep it less than 25 grams will kind of help you assess if that is the correct food choice for you or not. Protein would be the last thing, but popcorn's not going to have a lot of protein in it. But we've gone over all of these different things, so you're going to want to look at the serving size to make sure you know how much you're eating, and if you need to do any math on that nutrient facts label. You're going to be looking at saturated fat, making sure that that's not very high to control any cholesterol issues that might arise. And then you want to look at dietary fiber and added sugars and sodium as well, making sure these are kind of all in check in order to see if this product is a healthy food product. Really quickly, because we've gone over that, we're going to go over can of tuna very quick. So in this particular can of tuna, this is 4-ounce drained weights with a 5-ounce can, and we see that 1 can is the serving size. Perfect. The next thing we're looking at, saturated fat. 0 grams of saturated fat in this. That's amazing. And then what? Sodium. This has 360 grams or milligrams of sodium, so that's not much at all. That's really good for this, and they even actually add a little bit of salt too, so that's pretty good for even adding salt. This doesn't have any fiber in it, obviously, because it's not any kind of grain, and then it's obviously not going to have any added sugar. For this one, protein is 20 grams in this one little can, so that's good. We are looking for protein in something like this, and so hopefully that's a little bit helpful to see how we're assessing different things. If you think it naturally should have protein in it, like something like tuna, maybe canned beans, lentils, or something like that, then you would want to look at the protein content. If it's a bar, for example, kind of like a protein bar or a health bar, you do want to look at protein content, because if that is super low, then you might not be getting the bang for your buck in that. Same thing applies to maybe milk products, almond milk, soy milk, and then yogurt as well. So protein would be kind of important in those foods. So I know this was a super basic video, but hopefully it helps you see why it's important to read this nutrient facts label, especially if you are struggling with different chronic diseases. But hopefully this gives you an overview of what we are looking for on a nutrient label and kind of help break it down to see what makes sense.